All right, Rockstar.
Woo!
It's having a great day.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Salud.
Ooh, I tried.
That was a good effort.
I tried. Real quick.
We tried. We definitely tried. So, thank you for coming actually to sit there in drunken public as I'm drooling on myself. Great way to start the show.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize I was sitting next to a superstar. A journalist, all-star podcast, and a professional disc golf.
I'm not a professional disc golf
Number one girl in Dallas. Number one in Dallas, I heard.
I played in one tournament and I came in second place.
Badass.
Out of two people in my division. So that tells you a lot about how many women play disc golf.
Number one woman in Dallas. That's what I heard.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. Beer at noon.
Yeah, beer at noon and coffee, and we had some food.
All the liquids. This is how I like to start my day.
It's a perfect way to start. And I want to thank Superport for letting us come and hang out and giving us some great beers and coffee.
Yes.
So thank you, Superport.
Creating such a beautiful space and a beautiful ambiance.
It is phenomenal. Like, we're going to do a walkthrough here after this, but the artwork here is amazing. They had some pictures up there before. I don't know what they did with it. They must have switched it out.
They rotate them, yeah.
Oh, they rotate them?
Maybe. I don't know that for sure.
Well, you're a genius, I'm pretty sure. So, I've been in love with your podcast, especially I think it's episode 3 or 2 with Indian Pale Ale.
Oh yeah.
So I've listened to that like 5 times. So for people who don't know, Tiny's the host of Grapes and Grains, and I've been saying it wrong for every episode here.
Grapes and Grain.
Grain, not grains.
Yeah.
Got it. See, I still say it wrong.
Well, there was a trademark on Grapes and Grains and Grape and Grain, so we grapes plural, grain singular, because that was not trademarked.
Oh wow. Okay. So I'm glad you did that, but no, I need something got close to the name this time. I've been saying like hops and grains and grapes and hops. Like I've been all over the place, and I apologize for that.
G&G.
See, that's a better way of thinking of it. See, again, smart. So we have a phenomenal podcast.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about it and how it started.
Sure. So my best friend, her name is Laura. She and I know each other. We've known each other for more than 10 years, and she is studying to be a sommelier. And I'm working to complete the beer judging certification program, which I started after I've been writing about beer for a while, and I was like, I need more adjectives, and I need more context, and I need more knowledge about what I'm writing about. So I started that, and we spent many nights around my kitchen table drinking and studying, and so we decided maybe we should record all of this so we remember it and do the research and all of that sort of stuff. So that's sort of how Grapes and Grain came together.
That's phenomenal. So me and Drew want to do the same thing, become judges. I just feel like it'd be better off with the podcast also describing beer, since we hang out a lot of brewers. I always say my number one word they make fun of me, which we made like a segment, is a phenomenal beer, because that's the only way I can describe beer. Like, oh shit, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't that phenomenal. Like I need more words in my vocabulary.
Yeah, so you know exactly what you're tasting and what you think about it is phenomenal.
See, I like the word phenomenal. It's good. It works for everything. But no, but I also have a problem too. I have a stigma where certain words I don't like. For like mouthfeel, velvety. I get it. People use it and it makes sense to people.
Sure.
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't also like the way that sounds.
Yeah, I think we need to break that down. I did get feedback from one of my best friends when I mentioned the mouthfeel, and she was like, "What is that? What does that mean?" And I was like, it's literally what it says. It's the way it feels in your mouth, but it can be a variety of things. Carbonation plays into that. The malt profile certainly definitely the hop profile plays into that. Certain adjuncts. Adjuncts are certain ingredients such as corn or rice that will be added to a beer, not for flavor, but specifically for the mouth texture, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need to do an episode a little bit about that and help people realize exactly what's happening on their palate. That's sort of the art of tasting.
See, I'm lacking on that part.
And I call it an art of tasting. You know, I just watched the Conan O'Brien segment where the dog that he has, the dog puppet, goes to Great American Beer Fest and just makes fun of people like me who are like, oh, it's an art to taste beer. It's like, you know, my best friend's mom gave me a dish towel last year for Christmas that said, thank you, craft breweries, for making my drinking problem seem like a neat hobby. And, you know.
I think it works for me too.
Yeah.
But I think it comes with the culture of understanding the process and why you want to take your time and look at it and judge it and look at the color profile, look at the smell profile, the taste profile. You know, break it down the best you can because people put their heart and soul into it. That makes me appreciate it more. And that's why it made me got into craft beer myself because these brewers that came on our podcast really love what they're doing. And they're super nice.
Have you ever tried brewing a beer?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. They call it a brew day for a reason. So my friend Aubrey and I, she works at Noble Ray Brewing Company here in Dallas. She and I just brewed a beer. It was a smoked pumpkin saison.
All right, so you went all out there, real tough, real fast.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. And so we like smoked a pumpkin, and you know, you bring beers, you drink all day, you do this, you watch the temperatures, you add certain ingredients at the times, and I always feel like, okay, the brewing process itself is kind of like 2 or 3 hours, but I always forget about all the sanitation issues, and you gotta let it cool, and all of this sort of stuff. It literally, like 7 hours into the process, I was like, are we almost done? And then we just bottled it, which was a whole nother thing, and that is messy and so fun. I get to drink our beer next week. I'm excited
nice.
about it. Yeah.
I can't wait to look out and look out and see what your description for it is.
Yes.
I mean, it's gonna be phenomenal. Listen, you're a genius, so things are gonna work out just fine.
Thank you. I'm gonna put that on my resume. Certified genius.
You should. I mean, stamp it. I got you. I got our seal and everything.
Yeah.
Beer genius.
Awesome.
But it's a definite process. It's something we talked about doing. We don't know when we're going to do it. We had a few home brewers. A really good friend Jacob is a home brewer, and I watched this process. My really good friend Joey in Bedford brews beer too, and it's a process, and I've seen it, and I'm not really excited for the process.
Oh no?
Yeah, because I have ADD, not officially certified ADD, but I definitely can't still sit for longer than like 20 minutes.
Yeah. It takes a lot you gotta stay entertained.
Yeah, I have to do something, and that's why you see me fidget. Like I move a lot because I can't have my hands to be doing something.
Yeah, well, what I like about brewing is my strong suits are not math and science. You know, I'm a word nerd in the truest form of the word. And so brewing allows me to practice both math and science. And even right when we started, you know, you got to adapt the recipe. The recipe was for 5 gallons, but we were only brewing 3 gallons. So you have to do a lot of math to figure out how much water. And so we started with, I did the math wrong, and we started with too much water. So we had to pour out the water and redo it. So
working on your weaknesses.
Yes, exactly.
Being better overall.
Mind-bending stuff. I'm glad it takes more than one person, so it really is community building.
Definitely. We talked about Legal Draft earlier off the air. Greg from Legal Draft, him and his wife, I got a chance to talk to him and hang out with them after the podcast. And it's, she wanted to do whiskey or wine or something. She wanted to do something else. More liquor. And he decided doing beer, and I'm like, well, that's good foresight because you could have a liquor, you can make liquor in Arlington if you wanted to, but there's no communal aspect of it. You can't have the people in the neighborhood come and hang out. With a brewery, you open up a tap room, which they have a phenomenal tap room. You come and hang out, you allow the community to come see where you at, and try to taste some local beers and stuff like that.
Definitely.
So I like the beer aspect of a lot of things.
Yeah, and you know, whiskey and beer go hand in hand. We do have an episode of Grapes and Grain about this. That whiskey, the first steps that you do to make whiskey are the same things that you do to make beer. You create a mash bill, you boil your grains, you make the oatmeal, and then you start there. But instead, you know, beer needs to ferment for several weeks. Whiskey, they let ferment for maybe a week max, 4 days, and then they distill that product, and that's what you get from whiskey.
Okay.
And then whiskey typically, especially if it's bourbon, has more corn than you typically find in beer, but the actual process
not know that.
Yeah.
See, again,
fun stuff.
Genius.
Well, I just love learning. You know, that's what made me a good journalist. Is I always kept asking questions. I sort of got into journalism by happenstance. It was completely coincidental, and then I just happened to be good at it. So I pursued it, but it's because I really love to research things, and I really love to talk to people, and I really love learning new things. So that's what, in my job, I get to learn new things every day.
That's fair enough. My coworkers are the opposite for my job. We have to learn a lot for our job, yes. But I spend a lot of my time on YouTube and Google, and when I want to learn something, like coffee, for example, I spent 3 nights not sleeping, learning the whole process about coffee beans and stuff like that.
You're like a binge learner?
Yeah, I gotta learn everything that it bugs me when I can't figure something out. And another thing that bugs me, there's something that they explain to me makes no sense, so I gotta go into it further.
Sure.
Because you're saying something, but in my head it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I know it makes sense to you, but in my head it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I need more info.
No, that's great.
So I'm kind of like what you call a binge learner, and I learn like that. But it has to be interesting, for me.
Definitely. And beer has been interesting for you, I'm guessing then.
It has, well, beer, the process of beer, I'm learning more and I'm being more intrigued by it. But no, beer hasn't, in the beginning was interesting. The people were interesting to me. It's the people in North Texas who came on the show first were phenomenal. They were great people. They're super sweet, super genuine, and they really love what they're doing. You could, from the conversation, when you meet somebody, you could tell they really love something versus they just doing it because they're getting paid to do it. And they really love, still trying to chug it?
I'm trying. I thought I was going to get it that time. Well, we'll get there.
We're working on it. It's a long process to chug beer. No, it's just the community aspect of it. And then everybody's super friendly. Everybody's encouraging. There are people who don't like each other, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's in any industry and anywhere in life. But they still don't try to hurt each other. Everybody still works together and try to be one big community.
This is one big reason that I feel that the data is really ironic about craft beer, because according to surveys and research, 85% of the craft beer community is white, and it is overwhelmingly male as well.
Yeah.
It's like 65% male. Ooh,
I think it's more than that. No, we haven't cultural identity, but we don't
I know the 85% one for sure, but that's it. It's always described as such an inclusive community, but it's not a very diverse and inclusive community in that way. So I'm really interested and intrigued by that.
See, here's the thing. In a world that, I don't know, we have to have more data. Let's be clear. We have to look into it more.
Yes, I'm talking to a scientist.
No, not a scientist. Not a scientist. I don't want to ruin good scientists' names out there.
What is interesting about that too is that homebrewing used to be a woman's job. Like back in the day, like the actual back in the day, making beer was part of making the home. You got the kids out of bed, you got them off to school, you did the laundry, and you brewed the beer. So
was that forced or a choice?
It was a choice. It was more of the beer wasn't a commercial thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking eons and eons and eons.
Yeah, we're talking about 300, 400, 500 years ago.
Yes.
Before the monks really did it. This. What I'm saying is the freedom of choice, right? We all have freedom of choice. There's no longer the culture acceptance that women have to stay home and cook, women have to stay home and clean.
Yep.
In the culture aspect, you lose things too, like brewing, because we don't have to make beer and make all the stuff from scratch at home.
Yeah, because beer is now like a commercialized process.
But we also have free will that we don't have to stay home and do all these things. Women don't have to stay home and do everything. So that process is lost. Is interesting. I didn't know that was the history of some of the history. Again, genius over here.
I know that, the history aspect of beer is so interesting. As long as humans have been on the earth, they've been making things to get them drunk.
Yeah.
Which is really funny.
Well, one thing, I'm also a big history nerd, but think about part of it is unable to have clean water. I'm very impressive. Only 2 minutes ish to chug a beer. Very impressive.
Yeah, the clean water thing.
It's harder to have access to clean water. So instead of water, they drink beer. Now, is there a long-term solution to things? No. But people, we're weird.
Yeah.
Funny thing about it, on a side note, nothing to do with liquor.
Yeah.
Which I go on these tangents a lot. But the funny thing about it, if you put animals out there and people out there, they'll always find a way to get high. And alcohol is a way to get high. Right? It messes with your mind, your normal way of processing information.
Yep.
There's a normal way. Deers like to get high on mushrooms. When they find these psychedelic mushrooms, they will always come back and eat some more psychedelic.
Really?
Yeah. creatures
That's
love
interesting.
mind-altering substance. All creatures, right? If they have access to it, that's not going to kill them. They're going to take some mind-altering substance.
That's really hilarious.
So, as people, it's funny that as we grew, there were psychedelics from way back in the days because it's something we gravitate to as it's something in our DNA as all mammals enjoy it.
Definitely. What else do I not know about you? You told me how you got into beer. How did you get into podcasting?
So it's a long story short. I went to promote. So I'm from New York City, and we play a sport called handball. It's very popular here in the prison system here in Texas, but it's really popular in New York City and the West Coast.
Okay.
As far as just a recreational sport.
Interesting.
It's a long history, and I'm not gonna.
Handball?
Handball, yeah. They call wall ball in certain places.
Oh yeah. I know wall ball.
It's a little different here. You guys, the way you guys play wall ball here is a little different from what we do.
Okay.
I'll show you a video after this, but it's a really good sport, really energetic. It's really played all over Ireland, and it came from the Irish, and that's why I started in New York. But anyway, I came to promote Dallas handball because there's a bunch of New Yorkers moving here. So I went to a local radio show, which was a podcast at the time of Onsen, and this lady there, and I was like, you have such a big following, but you're misinforming people on statistics about school funding. Like, you can't lie.
Yeah.
And if you don't know you're lying, then you shouldn't say something.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're talking about.
Sure. Accuracy is important.
Yeah. At least also when you say something like I feel, if you say like I think something, you say you think something. I think this is how the money's being spent. Not that you know. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Just that little word. I feel or I know. I think. You know, versus
Or like
saying.
I could guess. Or
Yeah.
I mean, as a journalist, I'm not really allowed to speculate. I prefer.
Well,
not
because
to.
when you promote an article of information, you don't speculate. But if you're just gonna freelance on a radio show
Yeah.
or a podcast like this, if you think something's going down somewhere, just say it. But when you say I know this is how it's going down, and you have a platform of thousands of followers who tune in, you're not CNN, but come on, have some integrity where you don't lie. Like you don't know how the money's being spent. You don't even know your data's wrong. I just quick Google search and know your data's wrong.
Yeah.
So.
But most people aren't gonna, to your point, make that effort.
Yeah, and they're just gonna listen to somebody they think they know from the podcast. They think they have a relation with because they listen to and they tune in every week, and it's just bad information. So they invited me to stay on that podcast week to week, and then from there I was like, you know what? These people don't really. I don't like the way they vibe, so I'm gonna do my own, and that's how it started.
Oh, awesome.
From me calling somebody out.
Very cool. Is that why the first podcast that you did was called like Shit Show?
Shit Show, yeah.
Yeah.
So we played with a few names. So the hater hour was I say the hater hour because that's the really the core concept. We just hate for an hour. We hate on my friends, hate on like things, clothes, movies. We just hate on everything. But it's basically what's called the Shit Show.
Nice.
And I did that with my friend Joey, Sammy. And we did that for a few weeks, and then he's going to med school. My friend Sammy and Joey has 3 kids,
Cool.
2 kids. So
Very cool. How many kids?
2 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I lied. I said 3, but his wife wanted a 3rd kid. They only have 2. So.
Nice.
I'm also very forgetful because I don't sleep a lot.
Yeah, that would. There's actually data out there to support that may not be good for you.
No, so my new job, I still work in a lab, but I read a lot of more surgical reports. I have to dictate them. And I find myself skipping lines or skipping through lines and picking out words. Yeah. Because I'm not really focused or can't focus as I read. I think it's my sleeping problem.
Have you tried melatonin or CBD?
CBD, I do. I had a knee surgery last year, and I took a lot of CBD oil for my knee and inflammation. And I love it, big support of it. But no, I haven't taken melatonin.
They make beer now. The new thing in beer is to have like CBD and THC beers. In states where that's federally,
I didn't know that.
Or not federally, state legal, yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I gotta go
pretty
check
cool.
it out.
I haven't tried any of them. Of course, I don't do drugs.
Nope, we don't support that.
I don't do anything illegal.
Nope.
Definitely not.
We'll talk about something else. So tell me about disc golf. How did you get into disc golf and why you're number 1 in Dallas?
I don't know why I'm number 1 in Dallas. I don't know if that's a thing. But I got into disc golf. My boyfriend was into disc golf, and he taught me how to play. And
Nice.
so that was, and I really like it because it's a free sport. So all you need to invest in is the equipment.
Okay.
There's rarely a charge to actually use the disc golf courses. Now, there are exceptions, like there is a beautiful disc golf course in San Diego where it costs you $5 to play, but it's literally the nicest and most well-kept disc golf course
Does
I've
it pay for
ever
it? Of
been
course.
to. Yeah, and they have for each hole like 5 different tees, so they really take care and make it interesting, and it's beautiful. But Yeah, I like that it was free. I like that you can play it alone. I spend a lot of my me time on the disc golf course, especially if I've had a stressful day or if I'm
It's
upset.
the meditation version of it.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
very much. And I do yoga too. That also helps. But disc golf is just a really great way to get out, enjoy the sunshine, not have to spend any money, and also get like a couple miles in. So
that's awesome. No, that's phenomenal. So that's a big reason why I support a handball. Because there's most of the courts here, if you find some courts here in Dallas, which is rare, it's free. You come and play, you just buy a racquetball and go and hit the ball with your hand and you have a game.
Nice.
So it's a very inexpensive sport.
yes.
There's a few people in Austin, so big up to Austin. I'm not a big fan of Austin, but these people in Austin who support handball, I support them. And they try to bring it to the school, elementary school district.
Great.
Because it's inexpensive. You just need a wall, some lines.
Yep. There's nothing cuter. Well, there's nothing cuter than like little kids playing disc golf, except little kids in like snow gear snowboarding.
I've never seen little kids personally snowboard because I never snowboarded a day in my life. But I would consider disc golf.
Yeah.
I'm not really good at it. I don't have a really good, strong flick of the wrist.
Yeah, I mean that's important, but it's something you develop over time. You know,
Okay.
I can't throw that far, but I enjoy like learning.
So you're pretty accurate.
Yeah, I try to be. I mean, not 100%, but
So you can nail the spot 100% of the time. I got it.
I got it. Yep, that's exactly what I said.
No, there was a guy who had a hole-in-one disc golf. I think it was on ESPN for a while, and I think I watched that video 1,000 times because the guy's face was perfect because he hooked it. I don't know if you've seen that video.
I haven't.
It's I think it was in California, and then don't catch me if I'm lying, but it's it's just professional disc golf, and he hooked it around the bend, and he got a hole-in-one.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I have yet to hit my first hole-in-one, or a hole-in-one in general, but my day will come.
Do you make par a lot? Like, is there a par system like golf? Like, is it
There is
basically
a
like
par system. Every hole is par 3.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter the length, whatever. Some disc golf courses have different pars, but the standard is 3.
Okay.
So
if we go to the court, like there's a court not too far from here, or
Yep.
a field, it's 3.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. Doesn't matter how long, how short. Yeah, I can hit par. Normally, I just keep track of my score based on how many pars I hit, rather than the actual scoring system.
Fair enough.
Because you gotta, just like golf, there's a tee, there's drivers, putters, mid-ranges, and then the scoring system is the same. So if you score a bogey, you add a point. And sometimes that can just get depressing.
Sometimes, I mean, it happens. See, I work with a bunch of people at work that love golf, and every chance I get, I try to shit on golf as much as possible. For some reason, I don't feel the same way about disc golf. I think it's more athleticism involved to try to throw disc golf.
I think one of my favorite experiences playing disc golf was in Chicago, because they had disc golf on an actual golf course, and we got to rent a golf cart and ride down. So like all of the holes were really long, so maybe they were like more than a par 3 or whatever, but we got to actually ride a disc golf or a golf cart all around, which
That's
was
badass.
really, really fun. Yeah.
That's badass. In Chicago.
In Chicago. That was another pay-to-play one, but
So it sounds like you need to move to these bigger cities to play some better disc golf.
maybe. I mean, is San Diego bigger than Dallas?
Not population, but it's more fun.
Yeah.
See, I also I love shitting on Dallas because people get offended by it.
Yeah, I'm from here, man.
I try to shit on it as much as possible. It's gotten better.
Well, the good news is I have a best friend in San Diego, so I was out there in June, and her husband and I went and played disc golf. And
Nice.
yeah,
So you travel a lot.
I do travel a lot. I love traveling.
What's your favorite city?
Oh my God. Well, I just got back from Chicago again, and I love that city. I just have not gotten to see enough of that city, I feel like.
Probably never gonna see everything, even if you live there. Listen, I'm from New York City. You can't see it. I haven't seen everything in New York City. I've lived there for 19 years.
The thing I loved about Chicago, though, is it's so diverse. It is a huge international city. It's spread out. It has a million neighborhoods that each have their own personality. The food's amazing. The beer is inventive. The lake is beautiful. It really, really, really.
It looks like an ocean. Let's be clear.
It does.
It looks like an ocean. Like it's insane how big. You don't know how big it is until you actually go see it.
Yes.
Like it's ridiculous.
There were like boats sailing out on the horizon.
They have tons of docks. Like listen, it's a sea. It's a sea.
So I really, really love Chicago. I'm sort of jonesing to go travel internationally. My grandmother is from Germany, so next year I will be taking her back to see her sister and her nieces and nephews that still live there. Yes, great beer over there. So I'm looking forward to going to Europe again.
Oh.
I haven't been to Europe in 10 years, and I love it.
Yeah, I feel you.
And I really want to go to South America also. I would love to go to Patagonia and do some hiking.
That's it. That's some tough hiking right there.
Yeah.
You've seen some of those pictures are insane.
Yeah. And then I also want to go to Mexico City, so I speak Spanish.
You speak Spanish? You probably speak Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I understand it really well. I love Mexico City.
Do you?
Yeah.
I really want to go.
This is the thing about Mexico City. Well, Mexico right now is going through a bunch of turbulence, but they always have influx of turbulence.
Sure.
Majority of thing is this. In Mexico City and a lot of bigger cities in Mexico, they're so willing to have conversations about life in open markets where most people here in the stateside, especially in the Midwest, everything's kept privately.
Sure.
And people don't want to talk about politics, people don't want to talk about a lot of things, people don't want to talk about family, but everything's a community conversation there, which everybody includes you, everyone has a conversation, and wants to hang out with you. And they like to party.
Yeah.
They love to party.
I've heard that the food and the drink and the
Amazing.
museums are amazing.
So one thing, I don't know how much you know about Mexico City, there's a lot more Asians than you think there are, and there's a lot more like European looking people than you think there are.
Cool.
The majority,
They speak Spanish. I want to talk to
all of them speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Everybody speaks Spanish. So it's intriguing that you know Spanish. What made you learn Spanish?
Well, I've lived in Texas for almost my whole life, and not my entire life. A lot of people would say I'm not a Texan because I wasn't born here, but I would tell those people to shut the fuck up.
That's funny. People always try to claim saying, hey, since I lived here so long, I'm a Texan now. Fuck that. I'm never going to be a Texan.
You don't have to be, but like I feel like this is my home. I've lived here. I'm 30. I've lived here 20 something years. I told you about it now. I've lived here almost my whole life, so this is home. And back when I was in kindergarten, the elementary school curriculum came with Spanish, and so I was learning it from a really young age. Unfortunately, it's been removed from a lot of elementary school and primary school programs. But my dad also worked in Mexico 5 days a week when he worked for Vic, and so he was really encouraging me to learn Spanish. And I just find language is such a great way to connect with people and understand different cultures. And like I said, I'm a word nerd, so one of my very favorite Spanish classes was when I took Spanish linguistics in college. I felt like it taught
I didn't know that was a course. Okay, tell me about this.
Spanish linguistics is basically like the science of language. So, you can memorize conjugations all day long, but linguistics taught me why they're conjugated in certain ways. And it actually taught me a lot more about English than I
How
expected.
English is fucked up?
Yeah, well, it's just like, take English classes in like 6th grade. I'm like, I already know how to speak the language. I'm not really paying attention to what clauses are and proper grammar at that age. So when I took Spanish, I majored in Spanish in college, and the whole time I just felt like I was learning so much more about English because I was actually learning the structures, learning what they're called, learning the tenses, learning, again, why they are conjugated the way they are.
I had this conversation a lot with Spanish-speaking people. The funny thing about it, when you learn another language, and again, I know Spanish, but I don't speak it very fluently, and the goal is to get up there and speak it. But you learn another language, or at least comprehend another language, and it helps you understand your own language more because you think in your own language as they speak to you.
Exactly. Yes.
So as they're speaking,
that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
as they're speaking Spanish, you're hearing English because you're transforming the information in your head. So it helps you understand English more. It helps you understand the structure of English and stuff like that. So yeah.
And being that I have German family like over in Germany, I really want to learn German too before I go. But I've been saying that for like 5 years.
I've been saying that for Spanish for a while. I feel like I need to speak Spanish, period. I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Dominican, my whole
Are
family.
you?
Yeah.
I lived in Puerto Rico for a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very young, so I don't remember much about it. But
Puerto Rico is beautiful. DR is beautiful. I love both those places very well. I haven't been to the DR as an adult, but I've traveled everywhere else.
Awesome.
So the reason why, bring it all back around, the reason I asked you which is your favorite city, Chicago's it sounds like you love it a lot. I love San Diego and San Jose. I love those places a lot. Of course, I love New York City.
Yeah.
But Vancouver is probably my favorite North American city.
I've never even been to Canada.
Oh my
I need to
God.
get up there.
It is this Mexico City's fun. Puerto Vallarta is fun. Those all Puerto Vallarta is just a tourist town, but it's just a fun tourist town, right?
Yeah.
and a bunch of cities over there. There's a fun tourist town. Mexico City was an enjoyment. It was a treat, but you got to speak the language. You got to speak Spanish, right? You have to.
Awesome.
You have to.
That's exactly why I want to go there. Perfect.
Really,
you sold me.
They're really understand, but it's beautiful. The people are beautiful. The diversity of what people look like is beautiful. And like I said, I was very surprised the variety of food and like they're Mexican, but they look Asian because they have Asian and ancestors, but they're all Mexican.
So what about Vancouver though?
Vancouver was a major port town that everybody spoke English, and it's a fun city from start to finish. It's just a fun party city, and it's a fun working city. Like everything in there is made for you to enjoy your time there.
Oh,
if you like history, there's a little map of finding statues doing different stands as you walk through the city and learn the different districts of the city. If you love drinking, there's a drinking part of the city. If you love museums, there's a whole side of the city dedicated to the aquarium, museum, and being the port. If you love nature, there's I forgot the name right, Victoria Island I think it's called, right off the coast of Vancouver. It's a beautiful forest, not tropical, but it has a bunch of flowers and beautiful arrangements of things, and it's like nature involved.
Lush.
Yes, that's a good word. See, look, genius.
I specialize in words, so.
It's just a really green, lush environment that makes you want to hang out there. And then the people are phenomenal. And everybody's from somewhere else.
Yes.
So everybody's wanting to talk to you and hang out with you.
Awesome. Very cool.
Love that place. I tried to get a job there when I quit my current. When I went there for work. I quit my job and tried to stay there and get a job.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
Wait, Vancouver is that on the West Coast?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, I want to go to Whistler, do some snowboarding sometime. Never been up there.
So you disc golf, snowboard, what else you do? You do everything.
I do yoga, I do a podcast, I drink
Everything.
a lot.
Where do you have the time?
Cats.
You have two cats. I have a dog. I used to have a cat. His name is
Nice.
Simon.
Aw, Simon.
Yeah. Good cat.
Shout out to Mowgli and Glitch. Those are my babies.
Mowgli and Glitch.
Yeah.
Is that from a TV show?
No. It could be a TV show.
From Mowgli. Is that the bear from Jungle Book?
It's the boy from Jungle Book.
That's the same thing. He's a bear.
Yeah.
He scratches his back like a bear.
Yep.
It's a bear necessities.
Yep, exactly.
It's sad that I know Disney stuff.
Well, I mean, those are classics. Classics. Did you actually see the, what do they call that?
The live action?
Yeah, the live action. It was pretty good. Kind of dark.
People like it. I didn't watch it. Like I said, when that movie, the release weekend that came out, I just watched the original Disney one. That's it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm not much of a movie person, but that one would be worth it. I love live music.
What?
Live music was like my favorite.
Okay, so
My
this
first
is interesting.
love.
This is interesting. Okay, this is where the show gets away from like the interview kind of thing. It's been away for a minute, but here's the thing. I'm the opposite. I'm learning a lot that we agree on certain things, but we just naturally opposite.
You and me?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
like live. I do not enjoy live music.
Do you enjoy music in
I
general?
love music. But the thing about I didn't grow up listening to like rock music and stuff like that, or classical music, which I could see that being live performance. You can see the intensity as they perform. And I get that. But I grew up listening to hip hop and R&B and stuff like that. And not every R&B singer or hip hop artist is really good live.
Sure. Yeah.
So I went to a few concerts and I really was disappointed by just the voice. I sound so much better when I go home and listen to it on my stereo system.
Yeah.
And that sounded really old when I said stereo system. But just listen to it at the house sounds way better versus them live.
Oh, that's disappointing.
And I just never enjoyed live music from there.
See, I love it. There's a certain electricity that comes with watching the music being made. So that's why I understand, like, there's a lot of hip hop that's a lot of DJing, which is really cool. I'm still really into that. But I saw my favorite concert of, was it 2016 or 2017? One of those 2 years was The Roots. Backed by
they had a band.
100-piece orchestra from Dallas.
The Dallas Symphony Orchestra, yeah.
Dallas Pops or whatever.
Pops. My favorite concert I've ever been to was John Legend with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah. See, that kind of stuff, there's so much depth and texture. I think that's why St. Vincent's last tour was pretty controversial. Did you hear about this?
Who's Vincent?
Okay, St. Vincent. She's actually a Dallas, she's from Dallas. She grew up in Lake Highlands.
Okay.
And she was part of the Polyphonic Spree, which is one of the biggest bands to ever come out of Dallas, and they still perform, but it's kind of a collective of rotating characters.
Is there like classical instruments they played and stuff?
They do some classical instruments, but they also have like a backing choir, but they do really high energy sort of music. And she broke out and did her own solo thing. She does a lot of like indie music, but really smart lyricism. And her latest tour was just her and a guitar instead of a live band, because she also plays wicked guitar. She has her own line of guitars, which is really cool. But she normally travels with a band, but instead it was her on guitar and then backing tracks. And it was so polarizing. Some people loved it, some people hated it. And I thought it was weird because I was like, you're taking out half of the music, but my friend argued, you know, you don't go to a St. Vincent concert because you want to see the drummer. And I was like, that's true, but for me, there's just a magic and an energy that comes out of seeing
jamming together
made live. Yeah, so that's why I love it.
That's what I say. What I can see why people would love when you have like, you've been in New Orleans, right?
Oh yeah. Live music
all the time, and you can see jazz players out there all the time. I've been to, in Vegas. They have a bar that has a live jazz band, and I get it. When you see an actual band performing together, you see it, you feel it, you enjoy it, you feel the energy. You may not know everybody on there, and you may know that one lead singer, but they're all collective. Same thing with the Roots. They're all collective, right? And it's enjoyable to watch them make magic. But I don't go to those concerts. I go to rock concerts, and I don't see it. I don't enjoy it, but I do enjoy movies, which you don't enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy some movies, but
why don't you enjoy movies?
I'm just sort of, it's hard to get me to sit in one place for several hours. But that being said, I will sit on my couch and binge an entire TV series because they keep me hooked. I'm like, I need to find out what happens next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, movies, if I'm going to spend 3 hours doing something, I would rather go see a band.
Well, movies are not 3 hours. It's only recently for the Marvel movies. They're 3 hours long.
I feel like that's a trend. Lots of movies are 3 hours.
Well, the trend now is 2 hours. Really, very rarely you do over 2 hours. And that's a really bad trend. I hate that trend of going 2 hours. But I enjoy movies. I'm a big movie buff. I quote movies all the time.
What's your favorite movie?
Of all time? Forrest Gump.
Oh, awesome. Why?
I just enjoyed it from start to finish. I used to quote it all the time, and it's just really, really good movie.
Yeah.
Where I take it as he's a genius, and this guy's lived multiple lives in this movie. You remember Forrest Gump, how it starts?
Course, yeah.
He's just a kid with messed up legs.
Yep.
And then he runs really fast, and then he gets a scholarship to Alabama, help him win championships. Then he goes to the army, and then he becomes a war hero. And then he becomes a ping pong champion. Then he becomes a fishing boat freaking empire.
Yeah.
Then he goes running across country, becomes famous for that. And then he has millions
I think I'll go home now.
Yeah, he has millions of dollars. He's gonna retire at the house. And he has a big house, land. He cuts grass for free. Man lived 1,000 lives
Yeah, that's awesome.
around the world. Met all the famous people in his generation. All the
Have you ever seen Stranger Than Fiction?
Yeah.
That's my favorite movie.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it was good.
I like it. I think it's just so beautifully clever.
I like a lot of movies. Like, I'm a big
He
movie.
doesn't approve of my movies.
No, I do approve. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I just never took it like that. It's a good movie though. But I also enjoy bad movies. I enjoy good movies. I enjoy a lot of things. I think one of my favorite movies as a kid that got me hooked to movies. And again, I wasn't really big into reading, but it's Dog Day Afternoon. It's one of Al Pacino's earlier movies.
Okay.
So Al Pacino came out in a movie called Panic in Needle Park, which he played a drug addict. It's one of his breakout roles. Really good movie. That made him get Godfather.
Okay.
Breakout hit. Classic movie, right? Well, after Godfather 2 or between Godfather 1 and 2, he did a movie called Dog Day Afternoon in the early 70s. Now, that movie is about him bank robbing. It's based on one scene. But the reason why he's bank robbing, he has a transgender girlfriend that he wants to get the sex change operation. This is in the early 70s.
Wow.
Yes.
That's really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
One movie that I felt like transcended cinema was Dallas Buyers Club.
Definitely.
I had the opportunity to interview Jared Leto earlier this year, and I realized I had never seen the movie Dallas Buyers Club, which is not only about Dallas, based on a true story involving Texas
And he did a great job.
Yeah, and that movie for me was, I don't even consider it a movie, I consider it a work of art. I was like, this just transcended my television screen to, I just felt uplifted and moved by that movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I liked it. I like it a lot. I feel for me, my other is Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh my
You
God.
love Tom Hanks.
I love Tom
Like-
Hanks. I do love Tom. I do love me some Tom Hanks. But no, here's the reason. This is it's all collective because so. Before I go on my rant about Tom Hanks, Jared Leto, how was he?
He was enthusiastic, and
Is he a nice guy?
Weirdo. Yeah, he was candid, so it seemed, and talkative, which is always good in an interview subject. He was there on behalf of his band, 30 Seconds to Mars, promoting the album
The
release.
Kill is probably one of my favorite songs.
Nice. So yeah, I enjoyed him. I walked away thinking, damn, he's as beautiful in person as he is on screen.
He is a good looking man.
Those eyes are piercing. You know he's in his 40s?
He looks better than me, and I'm way younger than him. No, he's a good looking man. God, I wish I would ever get a chance to talk to him. He's done some really good movies I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
More on the movie side versus music. I do like The Kill. I think it's called the song. It's called The Kill or Kill. From his first album.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that song. Probably, and no offense to 30 Seconds to Mars, probably the only song I like from them.
Yeah, they're not my fave, but there are some good ones that remind me of high school.
Yeah. But again, I didn't listen to rock music growing up, but I do like that song. But the thing about Philadelphia, why I think you should watch more movies, there's definitely a lot more feels when I watch it versus reading, because I don't have that same imagination when I read.
Okay.
So when I watch it, you can see the actor's interpretation of the feels of what they read, and I enjoy that way more. So Tom Hanks, Philadelphia is based of a gay lawyer who contracted AIDS and is dying, and his firm fires him for being gay and having AIDS, unlawfully firing him.
Yikes.
Because he kept his sexual orientation
And I'm
secret.
sure that's a fictional story, but it's probably happened to so many people.
It does happen a lot, but definitely this is a fictional story.
Sure. But just like the thought that is definitely happening in
So the
society.
process of it, especially in the early 90s, it's based in the early 90s. That process of what's happening, I think the movie's based in the late 80s, but the movie came out in the early 90s. But that whole time frame of the AIDS epidemics and fearfulness and homophobia, it's really, really well-told story. Tom Hanks did a phenomenal job. Tony and Banderas did a phenomenal job, and Denzel Washington was a great lawyer who's fighting his own prejudice of homophobia as his client. So it's a really good movie.
Sounds deep. I like it. Okay,
Really
I'm going to write that one down. I'm going to watch it later.
Yeah, Dog Day Afternoon too.
When I'm hungover from whatever we're doing.
This is true.
Sweet.
So journalism. You enjoy it because you allow to do some research and stuff like that. But what are some of the favorite pieces you've done? Do you have a favorite piece, or they?
Yeah. So my whole thing is that I love writing, but I knew that I was never going to be like a breaking or hard news reporter. I love telling stories, but I don't want you to call me at 2 a.m. and wake me up and tell me to go cover a fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I was.
But is that really journalism, though?
Yeah, that is true.
The writing process and some of the stories you like the most.
So yeah, I knew I wanted to do entertainment just because that's what I'm interested in, and honestly, I feel like we need a break sometimes from the doom and gloom. Now that not everyone agrees with me, I was just at an audio conference in Chicago. That's why I was there. It's called Third Coast, and one of the panelists I was watching, she gave a really good panel, and then at the end she just slipped in this comment that was like, are you writing stories and producing, or not, it wouldn't be writing, but she was like, are you telling stories to make your audience feel good? And she was like, if you are, you're not a journalist. And I was like, I don't agree with that. I feel sometimes we need to hear about the happy and the good and the productive and the positive. So that's why I got into entertainment, because I don't like to be sad all the time.
Who does?
Yeah, and let's take, for example, I read about this place. Really, there's a variety of ways to approach a story. So this story was a basic sort of cover the opening idea. I don't infuse my opinion into a lot of my writing because, I tell people I write about beer, and they're like, cool, you drink all the time and you write about beers you like. And I was like, no, I'm actually not qualified to review beer because I don't have the training and I don't have the certification and that type of thing. So come here, talk to the owners, get a feel for the space, talk about what's the best thing that the public can enjoy here, right? Now, some of my bigger pieces, I wrote a story earlier this year about cryptocurrency, and the music business and how that's working. And that was a story that I labored on for like 2 weeks solid, which I rarely do. I write about like 5 to 15 stories a week. This one took me 2 weeks.
That's a big change. When you're knocking out stories quickly.
Yeah.
Not saying you're not doing your job right. We're just saying you just knock out more information in different platforms than you spend 2 weeks on one.
Yes.
That's a big difference.
Big difference, but cryptocurrency, it's mind-bending, and it's not something I have experience with, so there's a lot of interviewing experts and bands and people who use this service. Basically, there's a music service that's going to start paying its musicians in cryptocurrency because they see that as the currency of the future because making music doesn't pay anything anymore. Same with journalism, same with a lot of the mediums that have been previously like tactile and now are digital. So that was a really interesting story just because I got to learn, I've heard about Bitcoin, but what does cryptocurrency do? Why are people interested in it? Is it a thing for the future? And not only is it currency, but there's the blockchain behind it as an information sharing system to track artist rights and licensing information. My process for that, I basically was describing as mental gymnastics to try and understand it, put it together in a way that other people can comprehend it, and then the fact checking. Whenever I talk to students, I call fact checking a lost art. It's the most important thing that a journalist can do nowadays, specifically because, we're under attack as being
fake news.
Yeah, propelling false information.
Well, some people do, but that's not all journalism. And
correct, but it's sort of the blanket thing now.
There is, but it's also, I think journalists has to take their own responsibility for that. I've talked to, not journalists, I should say, but I've talked to friends. Think about like the news. Let's say what I was saying about the gossip of the 10 o'clock news, right? Well, they store information. They don't lie. They store information to make it seem more worse than it is and give these false narratives to make it more entertaining because they have to make some revenue. I get it. But and that's why I mentioned earlier, is it journalism or is it just gossip? Because if you're trying to make a story to make it fearful and make people tune in to watch so you can make money versus telling the actual information. It's a big difference.
There is a big difference. And to your point, when I was at this conference, there was a guy giving a provocation was the first night. So a lot of journalists came up and they gave sort of like hot takes on issues in the industry. And he proved that even facts can be misleading because he asked the audience, he was like, all right, so raise your hand. How many of you think that drug violations are, like, what percentage of people in prison are there on non-violent drug violations? He said, how many of you think it's 50%?
15%?
Yeah.
Okay.
He said, how many of you think it's 30%? How many of you think it's 50%? How many people think it's 75%? Most people raise their hand for 75%. It's 15%.
I would have been closer to 30.
So even the facts that we have about these nonviolent crimes and the people that we interview about them are sort of misleading people to think that it's more widespread than it actually is. Like, by that information, 85% of people in prison are there for violent crimes.
No, this is true. This is the thing about, that's what we mentioned earlier about information about like the budget, right? Yes, there's information you can read, but when you look into it, you can distort that information and make it seem like the budget's being crazy. And as your example is the crime rate is mostly non-offended drug addicts.
Yeah.
It's not true. Now, when you break down the overall prison system, right, 15% is non-violent drug offenders.
Yeah.
Fine. But when you look at that drug offender list, now when you just do drug offenders, now it might jump up to 75. The fact is correct, or maybe more like 50, but let's say the fact is 75. But it's misleading because it's only that 15% of that population of the prison system that's for drug offenders, and then 75% or 50% of that is non-violent.
Right.
But it's still, they use the word, and that's why I mentioned earlier that you have to take responsibility for the misleading information. Your information may be correct, but it's also misleading. You're not using the whole spectrum. As when you write a picture in a spectrum of information where you got it from.
Sure. Well, and a lot of people confuse what I do because I'm an entertainment reporter, a feature writer. I write a lot about new businesses and people, and again, a lot of positive stories. So there are a lot of people out there who may be wanting me to interview them who kind of consider me their marketing department. And so when I have to write a story about them, I get really uncomfortable when they're like, thanks for such a great story. Or like, not that, but like, thank you for making us look good. And I'm like, I didn't make you look good. But then there are also other expectations about like, oh, well, why did you mention that negative thing? I'm like, well, because it's part of the story. Like when I wrote about the new taqueria that opened in Richardson, I interviewed a former Top Chef. His name's Paul Key. The big news around him for the last several years has been that he was arrested for a domestic violence incident. The police affidavit said that there was blood smeared on the walls. There was a 4-year-old child in the room. Yeah, so a lot of really crazy stuff happened. But I went and he was gracious enough to give me an interview, but even that, I was like, I need to pay for my food, because avoid the conflict of interest thing. We always have to pay for the things that we get, and also I was like, I can't not mention the really.
That's a big thing not to mention. It's a big thing. It's like.
It ran in the headline too, but.
Oh, the domestic violence.
I mean, he's like famous for that. Unfortunately, he was famous.
Infamous.
Yeah, he was famous from TV, and then he was infamous because he was famous and got in this really grotesque incident. And then,
yeah, it's tough.
How do you move on from that? Well, I can't really.
That's not your job to help him get over.
Exactly.
Not your job.
And luckily, he's not one of the people who held me accountable for that. But I have had sources come to me and be like, "Why did you mention that?" And I'm like, "Well, because that is part of the story. Just because I'm writing about entertainment doesn't mean that I'm giving up my journalistic integrity."
Yeah, see, the reason why I agree with you and I enjoy your take on it, because it's information, being upfront, and like you just said, integrity. And I just don't think the news anchors are journalists. I think
Well,
like
TV is its own bit,
Yeah.
its own beast. So to be clear, I write for a legacy newspaper. There's a lot of baggage that comes with that, especially in the entertainment space now that technology has sort of evolved to where people can have their own blogs, and those blogs can be really influential. Like, I'm talking to a university professor from somewhere in Oregon next week. He's writing a thesis on the impact of social influencers on the journalism industry. Because social it's a new reality though, because social influencers and bloggers do not have a code of ethics. However, they are the ones becoming more influential over people.
That's why I mentioned earlier why I had a problem with this podcast and how I got started in podcasts. It was like, listen, you got thousands of followers. Now, not everyone's going to have the time to go actually correct you and see what you're saying, if you're correct. Like, if you're going to lie, come on. You have to have your own integrity, but you can't force integrity on the people.
Sure.
But when you get hired as a journalist, you have a boss to answer to, you have a company to answer to, and integrity comes with the title.
Yeah, and the Dallas Morning News has been around for 170, I think it'll be 176 or 77 this upcoming April.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have a long history of trying to do the right thing. Do we always succeed? No, but we did back in the day try to expose things like the Ku Klux Klan, and our editorial board endorses the political figures that they genuinely think will move the country forward. In the era of digital media and social media, there's a lot of confusion over newspapers taking a side when it comes to political people and issues, because
How do you feel about that?
Well, I have mixed feelings on it, because opinion and editorial has always been a part of newspapers, but now that everyone has access, like maybe they weren't paying attention, it's always a, hey, you shouldn't be getting involved, or like people don't understand it. They take out the one section that has bias and they apply it to the entire organization, so you guys are biased as a whole, and that's just not fair or true.
It's not true. I mean, again, I'm not a big reader, but I do keep up on news, and I try to get a lot of information from journalists on different platforms. There's other key words you can use for your personal opinion versus the fact. You can lay out the information for everybody, but then you can have your own personal opinion towards the end or in the middle of the article, wherever you want to put your personal opinion. But you always transition to a personal opinion.
Sure.
Like, and people do it more cleverly than others. People just say, I feel this is what, or my opinion is this. But it's fun. You have to have your own opinion. You spend 10 hours, 20 hours reading up on information, meeting up with a bunch of people. At the end of the day, you're going to have your own opinion. Now, does that stop you from putting information out? If it does, you're not doing your job.
It's hard though, because not only now as journalists, we not only have to convince people that what we're saying is relevant to their lives, we have to convince them that it's true, because there's this entire misunderstanding that journalism companies are trying to slant the news. And companies like our company are genuinely not trying to do that. But in the era of quote-unquote fake news, we have to convince people that we're reporting facts. And so it's taken an entirely new, it takes way more work just to do that.
I feel sorry for local news, like the Dallas Morning News, or like just local, smaller people versus, because the conflict starts from Fox and CNN, the bigger conglomerates of news anchor, right? Especially politics, right?
The ones who well, I wouldn't say that CNN doesn't rely on their slant of the news, but certainly Fox News.
They in different ways, but they slant information, or they definitely lean towards a definitely party. They both lean. Now, is one better than others? That's debatable depending on your stance. I'm not going to say and publicly pick one.
Sure.
But they both slant their own ways. And they both been caught doing really bad things. Like misinformation and have to be, what do you call it when you have to take back information?
Retract.
Retract a lot of things. Corrections. Yeah. So, but that problem is that's because they're part of the entertainment business because they've got a lot of investors and they got to get news and they also lean towards a certain political line, and that's the issue. Now they think because you may have a bad take on a political figure, Republican or Democrat, now they saying you're leaning for the other team, and when you're just giving information with maybe a smudge of personal opinion. You saying this person did this, and this is the information we have. This is why, this is what's going on in this person. And then
context is really important.
It is. I don't know. It's tough. I'm not envious of journalists, like real journalists right now.
It is. It's tough.
I'm not envious. So I'm
If
sorry.
you're watching this, support your local news organization.
No, definitely. Support all local business, especially journalism. I think you do. I have to look up some of your things, but just from talking to you, I think you might do a phenomenal job of keeping your integrity and information up front.
I try. I always say this, but I'm a really horrible liar.
So am I.
I just don't feel comfortable lying, and so I think that makes me a really good journalist.
So are you saying I should have been a journalist?
Sure.
No, I'm saying, no, I should never be a journalist. I should never be a journalist. I can't read and write. No, my co-host has he doesn't have a problem with me, but he always laughs because I'm overtly honest. And I'm not trying to be hurtful, but if I don't like something, I don't like it. I'm not going to mislead you any conversation. I don't, especially when it's beer interviews, when you interview some of these people, that's not a real stout. That's not what I think of a stout. That's my opinion.
Right.
I just want to let you know where I stand on it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to belittle your efforts and things, but I'm going to be honest where I stand. So you know where I stand.
Right.
And it's not always good for my co-host because he's a really nice guy and he always tries to he's not playing anything, but he always tries to toe the line of honesty and understanding someone's being nice to somebody and stuff like that. So,
and criticism is its own thing. We have a music critic, we have a culture critic, we have a
culture
theater critic. Yeah.
What? Are you the culture critic?
I am not the culture critic, no. It is a white man, which, at a legacy paper, probably not surprising anyone. Is it the right idea? Is it the right fit? I'm not sure.
Do you think it should be a woman or a black man?
I think it should be someone who's not generally represented in the mainstream. But, that opinion is totally my own, and I'm not the person making the choice. But he has written some very smart things about, the Oscars so white stuff, and I don't think he's written about Me Too. I hope he has. Gotta enjoy it. Cheers.
Cheers.
I am drinking an Art Car, which I went IPA this time.
IPA. That's a very dark IPA.
Yeah. Let's see. There's there's a whole swath of technical terms for color.
Okay.
So I don't know, I would call this amber color.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are some beers that I would call burnt orange or rust colored, but that's not in the official vernacular, so you can't really do that.
Well, rust, would it be that would be like a light rust?
Yeah, this would be some of the ones that are a little bit more orangey or a little brighter, strawier, what I would call rust.
Okay.
This is beautiful.
And who's that from?
St. Arnold, which is the oldest craft brewery in Texas.
St. Arnold, they had the big ups to Craft Girls. I know we're at Silverport, but Craft Girls had a bunch of big boy St. Arnold stouts.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they're known for their Bishop Barrel series. Very cool.
It was on tap last night.
Nice.
It was delicious.
Well, let's go back to Craft and Growler. The last time I was there, I had a subpar experience.
Why? What happened?
The bartender ignored me.
Was it the guy with a beard or a girl?
It was definitely a dude. I don't know if he had a beard, but
there was definitely they had some flux of not great bartenders, but the core people were really really good. There's a short guy with beard named Les. Really, really funny. If you ever get a chance to sit down and talk to him, he tries to joke a lot because he's a comedian, and he misses more than he hits. But he's overall a super nice guy. His wife is really, really nice.
Nice.
And there's a big guy, and I'm sorry I forget his name. We were hanging out last night. It's a big muscular guy, plain face, really, really sweet guy, really knowledgeable about beer, and he's really attentive.
Cool.
And then you got Robert.
I feel like we're like on a list of your favorite couples in Dallas. Todd and Courtney.
Yeah. Les and his wife. My best friend and his wife, Joey and Amy. Shout out to you guys. This is my favorite couple. They're my favorite couple, period, just from their story of life, how they met.
Yeah, how'd they meet?
So they both work at a facility. She got hired. He was already working there.
At a brewery?
No, I forgot what warehouse. They were working at basically by the DFW airport. And he was working there in the warehouse, and she got hired for some other position, but not in the warehouse. But they worked in the same area. And he met her one day, and then of course she saw him, and I guess she asked around about him, and he asked around about her. So he pursued to have lunch one day, and I guess she already knew that he had a girlfriend. So during the lunch day, she was like, "Listen, if you want to hang out with me and talk with me, I know you got a girlfriend. You can't have a girlfriend because I'm not gonna play those games."
Yeah.
So that same day, he went home to his girlfriend, who was living with at the time, and said, "You have to get out."
Kind of messed up.
It is messed up. But they ended up getting married, him and Amy.
Aw, okay, well, good for them.
They met, had lunch. She laid out the thing on the table, and he liked her enough to be like, "You know what? Make some changes in my life."
Yeah, it's intense.
They've been married 14 years.
Awesome.
Great couple.
2 kids, right?
2 kids.
Not 3?
Not 3. 2 beautiful girls. And I think Joey just has a life of just meeting interesting people. That's me and Joey met randomly at a tattoo parlor.
Oh, cool.
I was getting, I can't remember if it's this work getting done or this work on my shoulder getting done. But I was getting my work done, and we randomly met. I walked in, and we both knew the same tattoo guy. And I'm like, "Oh, he's in a private session. I'm my bad. I'll come back in an hour." And they're like, "Nah, come hang out." And that's how I met Joey.
Oh, nice.
And then he took me the next day. We went to that professional golf course in Fort Worth for a professional golf tournament. He was like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, "Not shit." And then we've been friends ever since.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah. 10 years?
Very cool.
Yeah. He tried to sell me a really nice house years ago to try to uplift my situation. And I didn't listen to him. Same house he would have gave me for really, really cheap. Sold for like 200, almost 300,000, and I think he was selling it for 150 at the time.
Yeah. Cool. Well, the housing market's crazy right now.
It's insane right now. So, who's some of your favorite couples?
Sean and Catherine Woe from Bachelor? I don't know. They do. They live in Dallas. Actually,
They live in Dallas, right?
one of the things I cover as an entertainment reporter is The Bachelor and Bachelorette.
Is that based in Dallas?
No, but there is a lot of Texas talent, quote unquote talent, that percolates on that show. So,
The good-looking people over 6 feet tall for guys, yes.
yes. And we actually have at least 3 Bachelor couples, Sean and Catherine. The reason I started covering The Bachelor is because when I started the Dallas Morning News in 2012, I actually worked for like a tiny little hyperlocal publication that they owned called Pegasus News.
Okay.
And Sean was from Dallas, and he happened to be the Bachelor, and I was just begging for hours. So I was like, I will watch this show that I have no interest in. And then I sort of got addicted, and it became an obsession. Bachelor's kind of like heroin; you can't let it go. Yeah.
Okay. I'm never picking up the show. I've never watched it a day in my life.
So he and Catherine are like one of the only success stories.
Okay.
And they live in East Dallas, and they have 2 kids.
I would have lied because I thought no one was a success story off of that. I thought everybody got divorced.
And then we have, there are 2 other engaged couples. So Joelle Fletcher, JoJo, she was from Dallas, and she was the Bachelorette. She met Jordan Rogers, who is brother of Aaron Rodgers, who if you're into sports, you would know as the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The weird guy. I've heard he's really weird.
Apparently he doesn't get along with his family, according to The Bachelor.
Because he's really weird.
Yeah, and then we just had, was it last year, Rachel Lindsay, the first black bachelorette in franchise, the first black person in the franchise history to be the lead. And she is engaged to her fiance, Brian, and they live part-time here, part-time in Miami. They travel a lot, they're celebrities now. We had a couple of others, but those are the 3 hot couples in Dallas for reality television.
It sounds like you know, they sound better than my picks. No, I feel bad. I forgot about, I get his name wrong all the time for my hand project. Him and his wife.
Oh, Misty and
Carl?
Carl. Yeah, funny story about them is
He's a genius too.
Yeah, no, like a real genius, though, not me. Like,
No.
you keep saying two. I'm not a genius.
No, he's a genius, and you're a genius, but he's like scary genius.
Yeah, no, he's like an actual genius. And funny thing about them is I really wanted to write about their brewery, and so I emailed them, and she got back to me. Misty wrote me, and she was like, yeah, hey, we would love to talk to you. I'm supposed to have a baby tomorrow, so can we do it next week? And I was like,
She works all the time.
you're having a baby tomorrow? I was like, take your time.
So,
You know?
she's
And now their baby's like 2 or something.
They're my favorite brewery. I talk about them all the time. I love them as a company, and I love the beer they make. They make some really good.
My cat loves their beer too.
Good, smart cat.
Yeah.
Smart cat. My dog doesn't.
He loves beer. I'll show you a picture of him drinking Manhattan Project.
Don't drop the stuff. No, I wish my dog drinks some beers, which is not. We don't condone pets drinking, but sometimes I wish they would.
I don't know. My cat likes it. It's not like he gets wasted.
You know, you got some flavors. You get some mind-altering substance. You know. That's a beautiful cat.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. That's Mowgli.
Hey, Mowgli. All right, back around beer. If you had a plan to like travel cross country for beer, or if you was to travel cross country like Chicago or anywhere else, any particular breweries you would like to go visit? Anything on your radar?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, I really, really wanted to go to like Goose Island in Chicago, but it just didn't happen. You know, I'm not one of those people who focuses a vacation around beer, which is uncharacteristic for a person in my position, but I am sort of an accommodator. Like, that's my role as a friend. I'm literally down with whatever. I love spicy food. I love all kinds of food. I love all kinds of beer. I love all kinds of music. I'm not the picky one, so I try to tailor to other people's interests. I don't want to take someone to a place or a concert that they won't enjoy, and I can literally, hopefully, find the joy in anything. So I don't really plan my vacations around that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will mention a cool brewery that I just went to in Chicago because it's unlike any brewery I've ever been to. It was almost like a speakeasy. It was in Pilsen, the Pilsen neighborhood of Chicago, and we parked and we were walking by and we were walking around the front of this building and I just happened to look to the right and I saw the initials on the door and I was like, oh, this is where we're going. So it was no sign, no anything. We walk in, this place is like a lounge, like white marble countertops.
Like a real speakeasy.
Yeah, white marble countertops. There was like a real fireplace with a fire and like books. It looked like a study. There was a wedding party there. All of the beer came in stemware.
Okay.
So it was very chic. I had never been to that was the chicest brewery I've ever been to, and the beers were phenomenal. They were like unusual flavors, just sort of really interesting. Like I think I had like a pear saison or something, and yeah, really great vibe.
That's awesome. Well, most people don't remember this, or if you don't.
Traditional vibe, yeah.
Well, speakeasies is really popular in New York City and Chicago. Like they're where they really started speakeasies. So to have a brewery around that, or at least a tap room like that, that's phenomenal. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. There was an Austin tried to do a speakeasy. I don't know if it's still around. Austin tried to do a speakeasy a couple of years ago.
What, like an Austin brewery? Or?
No, an Austin like restaurant, trying to make a speakeasy kind of vibe restaurant. And it was really good, but they were really expensive too. I'm just like, I don't think your price is appropriate for what we had. And it's not, by any means, it wasn't bad whatsoever. It was really good.
I went to this place in Austin. It was a hostel. But if you walk in the lobby and you turn to the right, there was a bookcase that opened and there was a bar, a public bar in the back.
Nice.
It was amazing. The drinks were so good and they were playing like late 90s, early 2000s hip hop. It was great.
Nice. So it sounds like I would like it.
Yes. I think Thrillist has a list of like secret bars in Austin and that one is definitely worth visiting.
Okay.
I
So,
wish I could remember what it was called. I think it was like Firehouse something.
I try to spend as least time in Austin as I can.
Yeah, why do you hate Austin? You mentioned that earlier.
I definitely don't like the vibe, the people. I don't like San Francisco either.
Okay.
I'm not like liberal, and then I just hate hippies and bums, and I hate whiny people.
And whiny people. Okay.
And I feel like Austin is all of those things collectively.
That's hilarious.
The other thing, I think just whine too much. Listen, at the end of the day, things happen. Nothing's perfect. And don't whine about it. Just fucking man up or woman up and just move on. Like, come on. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm also from New York City where we don't have time to complain about things.
I'm walking here. I'm talking here.
It's probably the most famous quote that never really was said in New York City.
I wanted to ask you, like, what's your most memorable beer that you've had?
Memorable beer.
Good or bad?
Well, I have a lot of bad beers that I personally don't like, but they're still good because I can see what they were doing and I can see why people will enjoy it. So there's a lot of beers I don't like.
Okay, but most memorable.
The most memorable, either way, probably the shittiest beer I've ever had was a homebrew beer with had like lavender in it. My friend Jacob, shout out to Strange Brew. I hated it. It was disgusting. I spit it out. That's the only beer I've ever spit out in my life. It tasted like lavender, and it sounds like delicious. The concept, I just didn't enjoy it.
Do you remember what style it was?
I do not. Don't got me lying. Just say it was an ale. It was a simple. It was a simple brew batch. He was saying, and he was on the podcast talking about it, but I can't remember like off the top of my head. So that's like on that side, the most memorable one. It's probably from Gavin from Three Nations. It was the first beer I ever had that description of it matched the taste of it.
Okay.
And he's not the only brewer that does it. A lot of people do it, but he was the first. And I've never forgot it. It's his Lady Luck series. We had it straight from the tap. Like, it was fresh. It was fresh that day. And he brought it to the podcast. And it tastes like horchata. It's horchata beer, and it tastes like horchata. And I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. Like, if you would have given this to me and said this is horchata, I fucking believe you. Like, this tastes like a fucking horchata.
I recently had a really amazing horchata beer also.
Where?
From the brewery, but out in California, BRUERY.
So we follow a few California beer blogs. I saw a few posts for that.
Yeah, so that was an amazing beer. I went to Oak Cliff Brewing Company actually for one of their first open houses, and someone there, his name's Jerry, shout out North Texas Beer.
Oh, yeah, you were there. You were there for their brewers like low-key opening?
Yeah.
I was there too. Me and Drew was there.
Well, Jerry introduced me to that beer, and I love that beer.
Yeah,
I recommend it to everyone.
Jerry's phenomenal. We had him on the podcast, and we work with Jerry a lot. We were supposed to have him on the podcast yesterday, and when we get out here, I need to call him.
Sweet.
He didn't. He wasn't able to make it. He had some personal issues he need to take care of. But this, by far, the sweetest man in this whole beer industry kind of thing. The most
Very, very nice.
genuine and sweet.
And he likes my podcast, so like, I like that he likes that.
He definitely, I'm surprised he didn't introduce us that day at Oak Cliff. Because I remember talking to Jerry that day and hanging out with him. I don't remember seeing you there. But I also got drunk towards the end of the day because I got there early, hanging out with everybody. I sound really bad. I say I get drunk a lot.
I mean, it happens when you drink alcohol. So it's like a natural.
But I do not drink and drive. Lucky Oak Cliff was over there by the train station.
It is. It's right. I actually want to do a story about breweries you can get to right off the train.
So did Jerry talk to you about that? Because we're going to do that on the podcast. We mapped it out where we looked at all the bars and breweries on each line and how you get them, even the bus system. So
I wouldn't recommend the bus system.
the bus system is rough, but there's not
It
too
makes
bad.
me car sick.
Okay, you get
like
car sick. Yeah.
The stopping and the going and the stopping and the going. I'm like,
Something
shit,
really
let me
Jewish right
off.
there.
Yeah. Let me off.
No, well,
And they're never on time.
is
I don't
anything
know how
ever on
much you
time?
use the bus system.
Well, your public transportation sucks.
Mine. It's not mine.
Dallas, you represent Dallas.
No, yeah, I take the train to and from work every day.
Yeah, so that was surprising. So we originally had you set for Friday, and then you texted me saying you take the train. I was very, very surprised.
Yeah.
Very, very surprised.
I know not a lot of people here take public transportation because it really can't get you everywhere you need to go.
Well, I work by UC Southwest, so I could get the public transportation.
Oh, cool.
But I go to work at 4 in the morning, so I can't use it in the morning.
Sure, yeah. No, I take public transportation It still requires like a 12-minute walk from my house to get to the closest station, but I love walking.
Yeah.
And I used to live closer to a train station, but I like my company gets a discount on the yearly pass.
Yeah.
So I like having it for when I need to go to a Stars game or to Fair Park for the state fair.
Yeah.
You know, I like using our public transportation system because it is there. It could be more robust, but
can be.
I think if more people used it, the culture here wasn't so driving centric.
Well, you saw again distance thing. Distance is
Yeah.
wow, you guys spread out so far.
So far, yeah. So I've never actually taken it to the airport or anything, but I have been interested in where you can get to breweries on the train because that seems like a really smart idea. So Oak Cliff and
Oak Cliff,
Bankhead, Intrinsic.
I'm trying to remember all the things. So me and Jerry talked about it, and that was going to be the episode with him yesterday. But if you do write about it, let me know, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
go through
we
the
should
article.
collaborate for
Through
sure.
the article. I mean, but we also were doing bars too. We got Craft and Growlers.
Crafting Growlers right over.
So many
over
bars on each line. It's just.
there. Mockingbird Station.
Yep. What's over there? There's a bunch of bars over there, a bunch of restaurants too, right over there. Our podcast used to be right over by Mockingbird Station.
Nice. Oh, there's a new one, Celestial.
Selection. Oh, I forgot.
It's right off the train. That's where I was talking about it most recently. Bankhead, if you ride the blue line all the way to the end, it's right across. It opens up right across the street from their brewery and restaurant in downtown Merlette. So it goes far. It just doesn't go everywhere.
So here's my problem with public transportation. Let's say the train station. Again, New York City, the best public transportation, I think, in my opinion, in the States. Now, it gets different in different places overseas. I think other people do it better, I think. But New York City, perfect, right? It's everywhere. It's 24/7. It's not the cleanest in the world, but it's 24/7.
Yep.
Then you come here, and it's not.
No.
And it's not everywhere.
It's because there's not a demand for it.
I demanded. So I had to learn how to drive when I moved here.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. How did that go?
It was shit. Driving was shit. I hate driving. I'm also still not good at driving.
What do you mean you're not good at driving?
I don't ever recommend driving me like you got motion sickness. No, don't drive with me.
Okay, I won't.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Thank you.
I'm not a smooth breaker. I also jam out to music too much. I have ADHD, so I look at things too much versus the road. Yeah, I'm not the greatest. I'm not the worst, but I know where I am. I've been in a car with a professional driver before, and that's the smoothest ride in the world.
Yeah.
But I'm the complete opposite. Professional driver, great ride. Horrible ride with me. My poor dog, I had a seatbelt her in because she's flying all over the back seat.
Oh man. Poor little doggy. What kind of dog do you
I
have?
have a red-nosed pit.
Red-nosed pig. Cute. So like, just the nose is red?
No,
or
so
snout?
no red-nosed pits are called red-nosed because they have white skin and their skin tone on top of their nose is still brown, but right in the little patch where you can see their actual bottom of the skin, it gets really, really red when they're hyper.
Oh yeah.
So that's why it's called red-nosed. But it's just a style. It's not really officially called that. They're just pit bull terriers. But there's blue nose pits where they're brown, gray, with blue eyes. So I get called blue nose, but their nose is not blue. And Samantha's nose is still brown like most dogs, but her little patch of skin in front of her, behind her nose is red. So, my dog's also named Samantha.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier with the cat. Simon. Samantha.
Yeah, so my name is Santana, so I had 3 S's.
I thought your name was Victor.
It is. My last name's Santana.
Oh, got
Victor
it.
Santana. Yeah, so it's
You got to change your evil ways, baby. Santana.
Oh, the band? Yeah. I didn't listen to rock music growing up.
Oh,
Sorry.
That's okay. It wasn't really rock music. Well, I mean, it was rock music, but it was like infused. It was fusion music. You've never listened to Santana?
I have now,
I'm sorry, did we get on the record that you didn't know who Metallica was until like today?
No, we didn't get that on record. So, think about Metallica, think about all that stuff. I didn't listen to that growing up. Now, was it around in New York City? Of course. But it wasn't my neck of the woods. It wasn't.
It's fine, but as an adult, like, when did you realize Metallica was a thing?
I realized Metallica was there when I moved to Texas, and people didn't even. So I didn't know a lot of people. I don't know a lot of country music and rock music. So AC/DC, I didn't know who AC/DC was. Queen, Pink Floyd.
Had you ever heard their songs before and just
Queen,
like
I
not
heard.
known who they
Well,
were?
I didn't know who they was. Like Queen was in Mighty Ducks. So
Oh, yeah, great movie.
yeah. So I know that from that movie. But then there's other movies, other songs that you can hear them jamming out, like the what's that Saturday Night Live movie with they rock out. I forgot the name of it.
Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, they made a few movies in the mid '90s. Anyway, they had a few rock oriented movies.
Yeah.
And I heard it through them, but I don't know never knew the bands, you know. But I came here and people would get shocked. I didn't know who outside of Eminem talking about that gay piano player. Yeah, I didn't know who he was until Eminem said it, and then it was all over MTV. I swear,
You don't know Elton John?
I know who he is now, but not when I was 14.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew.
What about Prince?
Prince is my favorite artist of all time.
Okay, good.
cried
We
when
can agree on something.
Prince is my favorite artist of all time. I cried when he died, and I left work.
Aw, sweet.
I'm a Prince fan. I hate Michael. Fuck Michael.
The Jackson?
Michael Jackson, yes.
Yeah.
The Jackson. I like
Michael the Jackson?
Yes, the Jackson.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
It is a bold statement. Shitty singer, writer, and all that.
Agree to disagree again.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not gonna say.
I feel like we should have like little paddles that say agree or disagree. And like,
I don't. But see, I take
make
bold
a
stance.
statement. I don't like movies that much.
Agree to disagree. I make bold statements. I take bold stance, and it's not always the best, but I do anyway because I'm just gonna be honest. I'm not a big Michael fan. Now, do I know Michael's music? Of course. Just not a big fan.
So what's another like bold opinion you have about music?
The Beatles is the worst band of all time. I've had this conversation multiple times.
My brother agrees with you, and I don't agree with either of you.
I think
disagree.
Also think Scarface is the worst Al Pacino movie of all time, which I love.
I can't argue with you on that because I haven't seen any like all Al Pacino movies.
Al Pacino is one of my favorite actors of all time, and Scarface is well beloved in the ghetto communities.
Say hello to my little friend.
See, everybody knows the line, knows the white suit. It's one of his most famous, the cocaine pile. It's one of his most famous roles of all time, outside of Godfather. Maybe even more famous than Godfather, but it's his worst acted role compared to all his roles. If you watch Dog Day Afternoon, like a really intense emotional drama, and then watch Scarface, worst comparisons of all time. Like he does better jobs. It became popular.
Okay, thoughts on The Wire?
Phenomenal series, the best series of all time.
Ow.
Name a better action drama series.
I don't know. It's a little slow. I haven't gotten through season 2 yet.
Oh, you just started watching The Wire.
Yeah, this year.
Oh my God. A phenomenal series.
I know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of one of those Beatle things. Like everybody says that, but it's a really slow burn, and I feel like a True Detective is leaps and bounds more intriguing than The Wire.
Definitely. Here's the thing about the difference between True Detective and The Wire. True Detective had a lot more to compete with, so it had to be catching right away. The Wire came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there wasn't a lot of HBO shows on there and not a lot of cable shows to compete with.
Sure.
So you were stuck there. So they had to build a...
So they're kind of like the Beatles, in your opinion?
No, much
the
better.
Beatles of HBO?
No, much better than the Beatles. Like The Wire is like Little Richard.
The Little Richard of HBO. Okay.
Yeah, like it's that and Oz catapult that series of like TV shows on HBO.
See, the context is what matters, and I think that's what you're missing when you consider the Beatles. The context. It launched rock and roll.
No, I agree. They're very popular. They made it more mainstream and made it more universal, accepted rock and roll.
But
Don't
like
take
think
that.
about someone like me or any other Gen Zer. Now all of the people who
What's Gen Z?
Gen Z are the people in the next generation. So I'm a millennial. The kids who are now in college and coming of age to drink and buying power and all of that sort of thing. So they think about them walking in and watching The Wire. They have so much to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who are like, so what's so great? Well, congratulations on turning 30. It's a wonderful world up here.
It's definitely a lot
The
better.
third decade.
Here's the thing. I don't know how you planned your life. I didn't really plan my life, but I did have goals set. I was going to be a millionaire by 24.
Wow, what were the steps that you were going to take to get to that goal?
Opening a bar, working construction. I got my welder's license at 17. And I had construction like ideas and building things and stuff like that. Opening a few shirt businesses over the years. And I was gonna be a millionaire by 24. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's really, really ambitious. You know, when they tell you about goal setting, it's like
Be realistic.
aggressive but achievable.
Yeah. This is very unachievable, but I was super aggressive towards it, and I did my best.
Well, I like that you were like shooting for the stars. You know, that's cute. Don't let anyone inhibit what you think you can dream up.
Well, I wish I had more guidance on the aspect of like, say you have your overall goal, but then set attainable goals. Here's the thing in life, and you learn this as you get older and with mistakes and stuff. But you have an overall goal. What does that say? The $1 million is still the goal, right? It's not anymore. But let's say the $1 million is still the goal. Let's have achievable things first. So the overall goal we know that's the plateau. And then you have steps in between the plateau and to get there. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
You could gravitate towards that. But yeah. But I'm turned 30. I think the second part of it is better off than my first part of my 20s.
Cool.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm definitely I'm also more aware of who I am. I think as you get older, you become more aware of who you are. That's why I also have a very hard time talking to younger kids. Because I get it, because I wasn't that long ago where I was certain. I had an idea of how the world works and how I could fix it, how I could change things. I completely get it. And not wrong in those feelings. But as you get older, you realize you gotta understand yourself more as an individual before you try to be more encompassing of the rest of the world.
It's interesting too because sort of the education flow of like where the kind of things that younger kids are learning are completely based on technological advances.
Definitely.
So I just went to UT and I was like speaking with some students about what they're learning in journalism school, and I was like,
wow.
I want to
Congrats.
go back to journalism school. I want to, like the reason my Twitter handle is the way it is, like I had a homework assignment that was go home, create a Twitter handle. Like I graduated in 2010 from SMU. That was what we were learning in 2009, 2008, and I just feel like things have changed so much in that time that I learned so going back to schools and speaking to college students and hearing their perspectives. I feel like, and even high school students, I'm part of a high school journalism program Dallas Morning News does called Storytellers Without Borders, where I'm a mentor to several high school students who are working to learn. It's basically like a journalism boot camp for 8 weeks where they are supposed to get all of the skills and training and resources they need to publish a story that would be good enough to put it on our website.
Wow, okay, that's badass.
Yeah, and I love working with younger kids because I feel like I learned so much.
Definitely do.
Yeah, I'm like, after coming home from UT, I was like, I want to go back to journalism school. They're learning they're learning things totally different than what I learned in journalism.
The advancement of understanding. See, the thing about education is also a learning process, right? Because
It's called education for a reason.
well, it's the culture, the atmosphere of education, right? 100 years ago, the education level and the understanding of how the mind works is vastly different than it is now. It's gotten better as time goes on. As time goes on, you also specialize in things and become more focused. And I think it's better now. Education is way better now than when I was a kid, and my education as a kid was way better than my parents, and it just gets better as time goes on. And when you go to these spots and witness these things, you get a better appreciation. Because this is better than what you were learning at the time, and you see the excitement in some of these kids. And
it's rejuvenating.
That's what I was going to leave. Kids' excitement for something is fucking phenomenal.
Reinvigorating.
It makes you get a push.
For the first time, well, maybe not the first time, but I was like, oh, I'm that old, cynical person. It's like, I'm that old, cynical person, and we're in this meeting with kids who are like, I would rather take a producer byline on a successful podcast than money. And I was like, you would? Like, you only have a couple years left of that, I'm sure, because one day you're going to need to make money.
This is true. This again, the enthusiasm they have for certain things, it's invigorating because you either get a reassurance or you learn something about yourself, right? So that's reassuring. But the reason why we get more energized because we know ourselves a little bit more, and I just feel like it's a combination of the wisdom and then the energy the kids have.
Yeah, just like keeping in touch with what the kids are doing these days.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Again, is just like such an old sounding phrase
It does,
What
because
kids doing
I still
these
feel like a
days?
15-year-old kid. I still feel like I was when I was 15 in high school. It's still the same insecurities, it's still the same, but I'm better off on how to handle it, you know, because I know myself better.
I don't know. I was just like, I feel like I was so much more passionate about things when I was a kid, but I think I just had more free time to pursue those passions. So I was like
true.
way more enveloped in them.
I'm trying to think. That's a way
And now
poetic
it's
way of putting it.
Yeah, well, I want to be passionate about things and I want to be all-knowing, but at the end of the day, I'm fucking tired. I am fucking tired, and I just want to go home and I just want to let my brain relax. I just want to watch TV and not
Here's
like
the thing.
work on a story.
We get tired way more. I eat certain foods now and I get exhausted. Like, oh, it's too much carbs. I gotta go to bed. You know, when I was 16 years old and I ran for cross country, I could eat a bowl of spaghetti, rice, and beans and not get sleepy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like being active is part of that, but like at the same time, I'm just like, my brain.
Well, you have to unwind, but I think there's a difference with us. I do my best not to stop moving. I do my best to move.
You also don't sleep.
I do my best not to sleep.
You should do better to sleep.
That's what everybody says. It's definitely healthier to sleep, but I do my best to try. Because there's so my biggest problem is so much information. There's so much I want to do.
Right, you gotta be like again aggressive but achievable. You know, like I feel like I'm a slacker.
I am.
But in the era of 24/7 news, like the only reason I feel like I'm a slacker is because I'm not keeping up to date on everything that's going on. Like from 8 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Oh shit! Sorry. Did that on purpose to wake you up.
That's perfect audio.
That is perfect. You know, just gonna blow out the mics. Sorry, Mike.
Anyway, whatever. 24 hours news. Life is so stressful this day. You know what I saw today?
What?
On Instagram, there's a girl that I follow. She's a wonderful young beer advocate. Her name is Trina Joe. You should follow her on Instagram, known as the Dallas Beer Babe.
Oh yeah.
She was at a sweet shop up in, I want to say it's Plano, but I'm not sure that that's right. And they had a sign, and it said, "Stressed," spelled backwards, is desserts.
Is it?
It is.
So D E.
Stressed. And I just got so much joy out of that.
How did I never I don't know. I never heard that before. That's interesting.
How is this sweet shop in North Texas the first person to figure this out? I was just like, that just makes me feel so much better. I've been super stressed lately.
So eat some fucking desserts.
Right?
Let's get on that note. We're gonna wrap this up. I can't believe we've been doing this for over 2 hours.
I don't know what you normally do. I could talk forever.
No, we could continue talking. So we'll wrap this up. So on that note, come down to Silverport, get some coffee, get some badass beer, and get some fucking desserts. Which we're about to get some desserts. Everybody have a good weekend. Take a lift. Don't drink and drive. Peace. Be careful. Love you guys.